So guys, what we are going to discuss the HTTP communication between our Angular application and the backend services. So specifically so far, what we have discussed in Angular, the basic concept. Basic concept means what? Now, without communicating with the backend services, whatever the basic concepts are required for understanding the core concept, that's what we have already discussed. So today, what we are going to discuss, you can consider this is the advanced concept. That's what we are going to start. And one of the such advanced concept is HTTP services. So basically, what exactly it means? It means we develop the front-end application using React. The back-end application is going to be using Web API, and how that front-end application will communicate with the back-end application. That's what we are going to discuss. See, whenever we are going to develop any modern applications, so any modern applications you take into consideration. Data doesn't usually remain only within the user interface. So whatever the user interface you open, right? For example, if you are displaying a list of product, if you are registering a new user or customer, if you are updating your employee information, whatever the interface open, data is not going to permanently store there. So most of the real-time application needs to retrieve, save, update, and delete data that is going to be stored in a backend system, or you can consider a database. And right, and to perform these operations, for example, how to retrieve the data, how to save the data, how to update the data, how to delete the data, the front-end application must communicate with the backend application. The front-end application must communicate with a backend application to perform the data retrieval or a DML operation against a database. And this communication, it happens through HTTP. So basically, right, as a fresher, as a beginner, even most of the working professional who are having 5-10 years of experience, they might not have a very good understanding about the HTTP concepts. So first of all, let us try to understand what all about HTTP. What is exactly HTTP, how the HTTP communication work, what is a client and a server, how the HTTP request and the response are formed, what is a web API, why web API are needed, how a web API differ from a website, what a RESTful API is, how get post, put, fetch, delete methods work, what information on HTTP request contains, what information on HTTP response contains, what are the responsibilities of a front-end application and what are the responsibilities of a backend application. Let us try to understand all these concepts. So before proceeding further, let me ask you this question, right? Let me try to understand whether you guys are know all this concept or very simple. What is HTTP? Guys, tell me what is HTTP?
Hypertext transfer protocol.
I'm not asking the full form of HTTP. I'm asking what exactly HTTP. If someone asks you what is HTTP, don't say a hypertext transport protocol. You already know that is a hypertext transport protocol. So what
Basically,
is
the
this?
communication between
To
the
the
client and the server happens through HTTP.
Exactly, right? So HTTP stands for hypertext transport protocol, but don't give this answer in the interview. Everybody know. See, it is a communication protocol. So why the communication protocol is required? And why we need exactly HTTP? See, first of all, tell me, so we are having the front-end application, we are having the back-end application. Why we need these two applications? Because to perform these operations, you want to display list of product, you want to register a new user, you want to update the product details, you want to update the employee information, you want to delete some information from the database. So basically, your front-end application is there. And the front-end application, can anybody tell me, can I develop a front-end application without a back-end application?
No, only static content can be.
Don't say no. It can possible. A front-end application can be developed independently. Till now, whatever Angular applications we have developed so far, is there any back-end application needed for such applications? No. Front-end
no.
application can itself developed and can itself deployed and it can work as expected, but with static data only. So when you need to do the application more dynamic, then in that case, you definitely need a database where you can manage the data. And how that communication, the database or the backend application is somewhere else, my front-end application is somewhere else, then how the data, particularly guys, remember the terminology is data, how the data is going to be exchanged between this front-end Angular front-end application and the web API backend application. And to exchange the data over the internet, we are using a protocol called HTTP. So what is HTTP exactly? It is a communication protocol used to transfer the data between a client and a server over the web. In very simple word, it is a set of rules. Similarly, if you want to communicate with the English language, for English language, for proper communication, English grammar is there. So that grammar gives us the rules and regulations how to properly use English. Similarly, this HTTP also provide a set of rules. What are those rules we will discuss? That allows one application to request information and another applications to return a response. So as a client, I can request the other application, hey, Mr. Application, other application, can you please give me this information? And the other application is going to return the data. One application request, another application response. Which application is going to request for data? The client application. Which application is going to return or return the data? The server application. And how that communication is happening between the client and the server using the HTTP protocol. Then what is exactly HTTP? It is a communication protocol used to exchange the data between a client and a server. Clear?
Yes.
Right. So whenever we perform any action such as opening a website, logging, submitting a form, searching for a product, loading a dashboard, HTTP is usually working behind the scenes. So you are opening something. Suppose I'm opening this browser, right? And I'm accessing this website. Behind the scene, who is there? Behind the scene, HTTP protocol is going to be there. Then what are the things happening behind the scene? The browser or front-end application send one HTTP request. That HTTP request is going to be received by the server. The server receives the HTTP request and process the request. Then once the request is being processed by the server send an HTTP response, and the front-end application receives that HTTP response and display the result. Clear? Clear or not?
Yes.
Right. So now the question is, why HTTP? So why HTTP? Let us try to understand. See, HTTP is widely used in web applications. Why? Right, it provides a standard way for a different system to communicate. One system you develop using Angular, another system you develop using Web API, and they are communicating, right? And how? Now, because of the HTTP. It works across different browser, different devices, different platform. It doesn't matter whether you develop one application using Java, another application using Angular, or both application using Java, both application using Angular. One application is a mobile app, Android, another one is iOS, right? Doesn't matter. The communication is going to be possible irrespective of the browser, irrespective of the devices, and irrespective of a platform. Angular application, React application, mobile application, desktop application, console application, any application you take into consideration, every application can use the HTTP protocol. And it supports different data format. Don't be confused that HTTP is going to support only XML. No, HTTP can support HTML. HTTP can support, right, the exchange. Support means that the data can be exchanged between the two parties. Can be JSON, can be HTML, can be plain text, can be XML. Any format is right possible, which is mostly right required by modern web applications, and most preferable if you are developing client server based applications, it is going to be JSON. It allows on the front end and the back end applications to remain separate but connected. So you can independently develop the front end application, you can independently develop the back end application. They can be developed independently, but they can be connected via HTTP protocol. Right, it forms the foundation of a web APIs and modern client server architecture. See, if you want to develop modern client server application, definitely where the client application can be a web application, can be Android application, can be another web API, can be a desktop application. then definitely it is the HTTP protocol which is makes them possible to communicate between the server and the different type of client applications. Clear? Clear or no?
Yes.
Now, let us try to understand how HTTP understand. To understand how HTTP communication work, you need to understand four right terminology. One is client, another one is server, a request, and the response. Let us try to observe. So the client, what is the role of a client? By looking at this image, can anybody tell me what is the use of client? The client is the application or system that send a request to the server. The client usually interact with the user. The client can collect the input from the user. The client will send the request to the server, and whatever the data written by the server, that is going to be displayed by the client. So this is the job of a client. So the client is the application or system that send a request to the server, and you can see this is the client, this is the server, and the client is going to send a request to the server. A client may be a web browser, a client may be an Angular application, a client may be right mobile application, desktop application. A client can also be fiddler, a client can also be a postman, right? Any tool you use to test the services is going to be a client. The second important component that what you need to understand is the server. Server means what? Is this? It is the backend of our application, which is going to process the incoming request. So once a client send a request to the server will process that request. So as part of processing, what the server is going to do? A server can validate the request, whether the data, whatever is required, every data is going to be there or not. The server can also validate the permissions like authentication and authorization. Every validation is fine, data is fine, authentication is fine, authorization is fine, then it will apply the business rules. If required, after applying the business rules, if required, it can write the data from the database. If required, it can save the data into the database. It can modify the data. It can update the data. It can delete the data. And if something went wrong, it can also return an error message to the client. So basically, server is the application or system that receives the request from the client, process it, and returns a response. And in our application, it is going to be ASP.NET Core Web API. Clear? And in this case, the client is going to be our Angular application, and the server is going to be our Web API application. Is that clear? These two terminology clear? Client and server? Yes
Yes.
or no? Okay.
Yeah.
The third one is request. So guys, remember what is the request? What are the different component that involved in a request? What are the different component involved in a response? Everything we are going to discuss. So let us first understand what is request. A request is a message sent by the client to the server. As a client, I can send a message to the server. And what that message is going to tell? That message tells the server what the client wants to do, right? So basically, what is the request? Request means if I'm saying, hey, please do this one, that means I'm requesting you. Similarly, the client also requests the server to do some action, to do some operations. What are the operations? Now, please return all the product. Please return one employee information. Please create a new student object. Please update the order status. Please delete that particular customer information from the database. That means what? We are requesting to the server to do this operation. If everything is fine, validation, authentication, authorization, data, if everything is fine, then the server is going to do this operation. And what are the component involved as part of the client request? We'll discuss. One HTTP method is going to be there. One URL is going to be there. Something called request header, something called route parameter, something called query parameter, and also it can also contain a request body, right? That if the request method is going to be put, post, or patch. So these are the different components. What are all these components? We'll discuss in detail. All these components form the request. Guys, give me 1 minute. Right? So this is going to be the request. Request means the message that we send as a client to the server. And what that message is going to do, that message will tell the server, hey, Mr. Server, can you please do this operation on behalf of me? And if everything is fine, validation, authentication, authorization, then the server is going to do the operation. And after the operation, whatever the response is required, that is going to be written by the server. So the client, so when I'm saying request, it is going to be sent by the client to the server. And the response means it is just the opposite. A response is the message that is written by the server after processing the request to the client. So once the request is being processed by the server, that message is going to be generated as a response, and that response will be returned to the client. And a response usually contains three pieces of information. What are those? One is HTTP status code. We will discuss what is the status code, response header, and the response body. So these three things will form response, or you can say HTTP response. Clear? So what are the four components? If you look at this client, who is responsible for sending the request to the server. Server, it is the right application which is going to receive the request from client, and then it will process the request. And after processing the request, it will return the response to the client. Once the client receives the response, then it can display the data or whatever you want to do as part of the client application. You can do it. Clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Anyone having any question related to this power terminology? Okay, so let us try to understand this request response cycle before proceeding. So the complete flow, this complete flow we can consider as the request response cycle. These four components that combined together, we can form a request response cycle. And let us try to understand how this request cycle is going to take place. Suppose a user click a button in Angular application to view some product or all products. Suppose one view all product button is there. And I, as a user, as a we just click on that button. Then once you click the button, what is happening behind the scene? Let us try to understand. The Angular application send a GET request to some endpoint. What is that endpoint? You can define, right? Let's assume that endpoint is API product. So once you click the button, the Angular application send a request to the API product. So once we send this request to, right, once we send the request, then that request is going to be received by the server. The server receives the request. The server understands the client wants product information. So so client send a message, and in that message we are specifying some information. What information we are specifying? What is the HTTP method, URL header, route parameter, query parameter, request data. So by looking at the request data, the server understands, yes, the client wants this product information. The server retrieves the product from the database. The server retrieves the product from the database. The server creates an HTTP response containing the product list. The response is sent back to the Angular application, which is going to be client in our case. Angular receives the response from the server. Angular displays the product on the screen. The complete process is called request response cycle. Clear? Starting from sending a request till receiving that response from the server is nothing but your request response cycle. Clear, guys?
Yeah.
Is that clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. What is HTTPS? Can anybody tell me? We understand HTTP. What is HTTPS and what is the difference between HTTP and HTTPS? Guys, tell me. Anyone having any idea? So these
HTTPS
questions
is the
can be asked
secret.
in the interview. Yes, please.
HTTPS is the secret way of requesting the.
Okay. So can you please elaborate?
HTTPS case, we mostly one SSL certificate is involved, but with the normal HTTP, it will be we do not require that SSL, but it is for security purpose.
How it is providing the security? So I understand SSL certificate needs to be
So,
installed. See,
Transport
first of all,
protocol.
tell me. So you guys know the answer. You guys tell me. So when I'm saying HTTP, why we are using HTTP? Not to communicate between the client and the server. Then why the communication? For data exchange. Am I right? So what if there is no data, if I don't want to send any data, or I don't want to receive any data from the server, do I need to make a request to the server? Not required. So why I'm sending a request to the server? For the communication purpose. For what purpose? Communication. Then why communication? Because to exchange the data. So basically, in case of HTTP, the data will be transferred in plain text. The data will be transferred in plain text. So, plain text. Plain text means one, if any middleman is there, then they can view the data, they can store the data, they can hack the data. And to protect this data, what we need to use? We need to HTTPS, Hypertext Transport Protocol Secure. So that S means what? It is secured. Secured means what? Now, whatever the data is going to be transferred between the client and the server, that while it transforming over the internet, that data is going to be encrypted. That encryptedness, that encrypted functionality or encryption is going to be provided by HTTPS. Clear? So this
Yes.
is the HTTP and HTTPS. They are going to work exactly as ideal. Only difference is that data is going to be encrypted while transferring over the internet. If you are using HTTPS, it is going to be plain text. If you are using HTTP protocol, clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what is an API and why it is needed? See, API stands for Application Programming Interface. Yes, this is the full form. And I generally not interested inside, regarding this full form. So what is an API? See, API is a defined way for one application to communicate with another application. API is something which is give us the opportunity, to communicate with another. So another application can communicate with me if it is a API. A web API normally expose endpoints, and these endpoints can be consumed by different types of client using HTTP protocol. So basically, this API means it exposes some services or resources you can consider. These resources are going to be consumed by the external world, external client. And how they are going to consume? Using the HTTP protocol. In web development, an API commonly act as a bridge between the front end and the backend database. The front end should not communicate with the database directly. See, now you might have one question, sir. I'm developing Angular application, I'm developing Android application. Right, I can write the logic in Android. I can write the logic in in my Angular application, Android application, iOS application. Then why I'm taking this middleware? Why I'm taking this web API? Why not I write the logic directly in my Angular application and inside my Android application, iOS or whatever? The reason is that these front-end applications, they do not have the capacity to communicate directly with the database. So first reason, they don't have that flexibility or capacity to communicate with the database. Second reason, if I'm writing the logic, if my data is going to be there in the database, and I want three different types of application. For example, if you take nowadays, if you take any application, let assume SBI banking. SBI banking having the mobile application, Android. SBI banking having iOS application version. They also are having the web version. So three different applications are going to be there. If these applications can directly communicate with the database, then what problem we need to face? We need to repeat the same logic at three different applications. Tomorrow, you need to make some changes in your business logic. First of all, the change writing the repetition logic in three different applications. Secondly, if you want to do some changes, then you have to do at three different projects. And definitely, it is not feasible in a long-term purpose. This is the reason why the front-end application, they do not have the capacity to directly communicate with the backend database. And to bridge this gap, web API are introduced. Front-end application now send the request to our API. The API will forward that request to the database. And while it is returning the data, the database will return the data to API and API will return the data to front-end. Clear? Clear or no?
Yes.
Okay. Suppose an organization has employee information stored in its backend system. The same API may be used by an Angular web application, mobile application, desktop application, and right up to third-party application, right? Any kind of application they can communicate with your backend system. Each client can request employee information from the same API. This avoids creating separate backend logic for every type of client. That's what we just discussed. Now, how does a website differ from a web application? Sorry, how does a web API, how a web API differ from website? Can anybody tell me? Hmm. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between a web API and a website? So what is the main purpose of a website? It is for client interaction
To
or
display static data.
it's not static data. So it is basically used for client interaction. Suppose you are using the website. So right, whenever you are opening something on your browser, this is going to be a website. And from that website, you are clicking the button, you are providing some input. That means you are interacting. Now tell me, you are using SBI net banking. Have you ever directly consumed the services or you are consuming through the website? How you are consuming? So you are communicating with the website. Website internally communicate with the backend services. So a website is mainly created for people to view and interact with through a browser. It normally returns visual content like HTML pages, CSS, JavaScript, image, forms, button menus, right? Many things are there, which is provided to us, which we can access via a browser. So it website present information in a format that people can read and use directly. So as a normal user, I can read the data, I can update the data, I can modify the data using a website. Now, when it comes to web API, it is mainly created for software application to exchange the data. So this is for user interaction, website for user interaction, and web API for exchanging the data in transformation. It normally returns data in XML, JSON, and plain text data. The return data is normally used by another application, such as Angular, React, or if you take the example of Android IS, and then they are going to display the data to the user. So this is for user interaction, and this is for data exchange. Clear? Clear, guys? Right. For example, okay, suppose a shopping website is going to be there, which is going to display the product card, product images, product name, price, and a add to cart button. That means what? This is a website where you can see the product. Guys, give me 1 minute. Okay. So basically, whatever you are whatever you can see in the website, you can see the product information, you can see the order details, you can see the payment information, you can see add to cart, view cart, all these options you can see. And if you are seeing and if you are interacting with it, this is nothing but a website. Whereas a shopping web API may return product data, product ID, product name, price, available stock. So the Angular or the front-end application will receive the data from the web API, and then it will display this data according to the client's need. I mean, the way the user can easily view, easily do some kind of operations, accordingly it will represent the data. But here, a website say, here is a page that you can view and use, whereas a web API say, here is the data your application requested. Clear? So web API means it is specifically for user interaction. Website means user interaction. Web API means data. Clear? Clear, guys?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. What is a RESTful API? Can anybody tell me? See, whatever I'm showing, these are interview questions also, guys. So if the interviewer having some little bit knowledge, right? And if you are going for a full stack interview, definitely you will face these questions. So what is RESTful API? Anyone having any idea?
Basically, the REST is a standard protocol, we can say, which our HTTP web API follows.
Yes.
Like we have the following verbs like get, put, post, patch, delete. So with respect of all these verbs, we will do the operations. Like for fetching the records, we will use get verb.
Right, right, right. So basically, REST means what? Now, it's a set of a protocol, set of a constant, you can say, right? Some right, and any RESTful API, right? RESTful API, when I'm saying it is actually an API. So when I'm saying RESTful API, technically it is a API. That API follows a REST principle. Sir, what do you mean by RESTful principles? REST principle means what? It should use HTTP methods like get, post, put, fetch, delete. It should have a meaningful URL. Every resource should be uniquely identified. Appropriate HTTP status code. The API, the server should return proper HTTP status code. One access informational, two access successful, three access right in. Uh, uh, I mean, some changes is required, right? Four
Redirection also.
access redirectional, right? 4xs, that is going to be your client side error. 5xs, this is going to be your server error. And most importantly, that communication is going to be stateless. So can anybody explain me what do you mean by stateless communication?
Because server is not going to store the request information each time when we are sending the request. We should send all the required information in the payload and
Yes.
headers.
Yes. The the server never going to store any client information. Every time you send a request, that request should itself contain enough information related to the client so that the server can identify the client, the server can validate the client, and server can process the data. No prior information related to the client is going to be stored in the server. That is stateless communication. And whenever you are working with RESTful services, every endpoint or right, it is going to be work with the resource. Resource means data. Data means what? Product is a data, student is a data, order is a data, payment is going to be one data, customer is going to be one data. So everything, whatever you can consider, is going to be data. And RESTful is going to work with this data in terms of resources. So resources means what? Data. You can consider every data or object or on which you are going to work. That is going to be a resource. For example, right? Suppose a resource is product. Suppose we are having a product resource. Then a RESTful API may provide the following endpoint: get API products. So by looking at this HTTP method, this is going to my URL. So this is going to tell the server, hey, Mr. Server, the client is requesting to retrieve all the products. If this is the request to get API production, the product, right, it will give a message. This message is saying that we need a product whose ID is 10. So now if you look at this URL, this API product, And for here also API product. Means what? The URL is identically same. But what is different? Here the method is get and here the method is post. So basically, whenever the REST principle is applying, it is not only going to check the URL, but also it is going to take other factor into considerations. Sir, what do you mean by other factors? Other factor means the HTTP method, the URL, and the combination are not only the URL, something called route data, something called query parameters. We will discuss all these things. All these things it will take into consideration to decide which endpoint is going to handle that request. But every endpoint what you define, that is going to be a resource. And for one resource, we can define multiple endpoints. For example, product is one resource. So on product resource, we can define multiple endpoint. One endpoint to get all the product, another endpoint to add a new product, another endpoint to delete a product, another endpoint to add multiple product, another endpoint to update the product. So many operations you can perform on the data. So the URL represent a resource. So this URL is going to tell. So now you might have the question, sir, what is this get and what is this? This is going to be your resource. And on this resource, what operations you are going to perform, that is going to be defined by the HTTP method. Clear? So this is going to be my resource. And on this resource, what operation I want to perform? Get, okay, retrieve the data. Here, this is my resource. And what operation get? Okay, here also I'm going to retrieve the data. This is my resource API product to post. Okay, it is means I'm going to create a new product. This is my resource and this is my method. So this method is going to tell what operation will be performed on the resource. Clear?
Sir, sorry for interrupt. Sir, are you sharing anything? Sir, I can't see actually.
Yeah, I'm sharing my screen.
Okay,
Guys,
sir.
my screen,
Please
my screen,
join.
guys, my
No, but
screen is visible to all of you.
.NET tutorials.
Yes,
No,
sir.
no. The screen is visible, sir. RESTful API example, you are on that screen.
No,
Yes,
currently
yes,
I'm
yes.
seeing elephant. Okay,
Yeah.
so might be someone picture.
If anyone not right unable to see my screen, then please right relogin.
Okay,
Okay, sir.
okay, okay. Because I thought we are discussing orally. We are.
No, no, no. So I'm sharing my screen. Okay. So now what we need to understand the common HTTP methods. So the common HTTP method means these are the methods: get, post, put, patch, and delete. Can anybody tell me what is the use of this method? Get means get is used for what purpose?
Fetching the records.
Fetching the record.
Records.
Post means
Inserting a record.
creating a new resource. Put means
Updating a resource.
and patch means
In a update, we will do update on all the uh, on all the column, but the patch is completely for a specific column. Partial updated.
so put. When I'm saying put means it is complete update. Patch means partial update. Delete means it is going to delete a resource. So what is the difference between these two? So in interview, the interviewer might be asking this question. Can you please elaborate what is the difference between put and patch? So put is basically used when we want to completely update a resource. For example, one resource, for example, product resource, there are 10 columns. If you want to update all the columns, then go with put. No, I don't want to update all the columns. I only want to update the price. I only want to update the name. Partial information I want to update. Then in that case, you need to go with the patch. So put is specifically for complete update. So in this case, the client needs to send the complete object as part of the request body. And in case of a patch, no need to send the complete product information only, which informations are needed for updation. Please send those informations only. Clear?
If we have to update 3-4 columns, then we use patch.
You can go with the patch.
Okay.
So put means what? I'm saying again and again, the complete object is going to be sent by the client. Complete object means I'm not saying created on, created by, modified on, modified by. Those columns are auditable column. Those columns which are related to product information, they needs to send. Clear?
Yeah.
Okay. Right. So now we need to understand, right, difference between we have also discussed. Use patch for complete update or replacement, and sorry, put for complete update and patch for partial update. Delete means it is going to delete a right resource. Means what? Delete a product, delete user account, delete an employee, delete an order. Okay. So now, before moving further, right, one important concept that what we need to understand: soft delete versus hard delete. Okay. Can anybody tell me what is the difference between these two? You might get this question also in the interview. Does anyone heard this particular terminology, soft delete and hard delete?
So hard delete means we are completely deleting the record from the database, and soft delete in the sense we are not deleting the record, we are changing the status of the record. It can be inactive or is deleted.
Exactly. So basically, if my resource having one right property or column, you can say is active, is deleted, right? So some column is there, it which is going to tell us what is the current status of that record. For example, one boolean flag is active. If the value is true, means the record is active. If the value is false, means this product is not active. Similarly, it's deleted. If it true value is true, it's active, or it is a active product. If it is deleted, it's true for this column. If it is true, means it. Sorry, I just made right. Is active is different. Is deleted. So here is active true means product is active. False means product is not active. Is deleted true means what? True means that product is no longer available for the customer to purchase. Is deleted false means this is not deleted. The customer can make a purchase. So basically, if your database table having such column, then you have two options. You can go with the soft delete and you can go with a hard delete. Soft delete means marking a record active and inactive without removing that record permanently from the database. Hard delete means what? Removing that record itself, right, from the table. So directly we are going to remove that record from the table. So that is hard delete. Soft delete means we are going to mark that a record is inactive or deleted. Clear?
Yes.
Now, so if you are going to implement soft delete, then don't use the remove operation. So soft delete means you can go with this put and patch. Clear? So soft delete means what? We are actually not deleting the data. Soft delete means what? We are just updating a particular column value. Am I right? Yes or no?
Yes.
So if this is
Yes.
a column, so we are setting this column value to true or false. Means what? We are only updating that particular record. So in that case, you need to go with the put or patch. If it is hard delete, then only go with the delete method. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Now what we need to do? We need to understand the complete HTTP request component. So guys, remember the HTTP request is composed of many components, right? So what are the components? You need to understand this component. One is the request URL, HTTP method, a request header, route parameters, query parameters, and request body. So let us try to understand this with one example. So please have a look at the diagram. So if you look at this thing, so this is going to be my HTTP request. That HTTP request you can say contain many things. So this is going to my complete URL. So this is going to my request URL. So that complete information you can consider the request URL. So from this request URL, the first part here you can see get. This is nothing but the HTTP method. First part you can see here get is nothing but HTTP method. So the HTTP request definitely and it is mandatory to have a proper method type. So what this HTTP method will tell to the server? That it will tell to the server what operations to be performed on this resource. What operations to be performed on this resource, that is what going to be tell by this HTTP method. Get means what? It is telling to the server, yes, hey, Mr. Server, this is a request, this is a get request. So you can only retrieve the data. That doesn't mean I cannot modify the data, I cannot delete the data. You can do whatever you want. But if you are doing update operation or delete operation as part of a get request, you are not following the principle. You are not following the REST principle. So get means it should and must be used for data retrieval, but that doesn't mean you cannot do other operations. Clear? Clear or not? Yes or no? What happened, guys? If you are not understanding, tell me. But if you are understanding, why you silent?
Sir, in this, like some persons say, what is schema in this? So can you please tell in a request what is schema?
Here, HTTPS is the schema.
The URL are you seeing?
Yes.
api.example.com.
So this HTTPS, this is the schema. Scheme you can consider, say, right? So that what HTTPS protocol we are saying, that is also schema. So here api.example.com, this is your domain name. API/product, this is going to be your, right, what I can say, resource. 10 is going to be your route parameter. Query equals to mobile, after the question mark, whatever it's going to be there, they are going to be query parameters. The request can also contains the header. You can say content type, accept, authorization. These are the different header, and the request body you can also have one request body. So now, so first of all, request method. Request method is going to tell what type of operations to be performed on this resource. Clear? What is the use of HTTP method? From this statement, is that clear to everybody?
Yes.
Right. And then, so this is the right, what I can say, protocol, or you can say schema or protocol. This is going to be your domain name. And then this is API product. So this API product is nothing but your resource. And after the resource, before the question mark, you can see whatever we pass, they are going to be your route parameter. So that route parameter, why we are passing, to identify a specific resource. Guys, remember, whenever you are using route parameter are mostly used for identifying a specific resource or a specific category of a resource. For example, here 10. 10 means what? It is a value. And this value for what variable? That what we already defined in the API. So in API, we can have some placeholder called ID or something else. For that placeholder, this is the value. So the route parameter is specifically used to specify a specific resource. And guys, remember, in this request URL, right, the route parameter, if it has something, they are mandatory values. Without passing the route parameter, you cannot access the endpoint. And after the question mark, whatever you provide, they are going to be your query
Queries.
parameter. And guys, remember, query parameter are optional parameter, not mandatory. Here, route parameter is always mandatory, but query parameters are not mandatory. You can, if you pass, you can pass. If you don't want to pass, you can skip. And the query parameter are nothing but they are going to be placed after the question mark with a key value pair. So here you can see category equals to mobile. Category is the key, mobile is the value. And if you want to pass multiple query parameter, then each query parameter will be separated with a ampersand symbol. And here you can see two ampersand symbol I have provided. Category equals to mobile, page equals to 2. So as we already discussed, the query parameter are used to specify, used to identify a specific resource. These query parameters are optional parameter. Then can anybody tell me what is the use of query parameter in real time? For what purpose we generally use query parameters?
To add some filters, we can add.
Yes. So the query parameters are specifically used for optional filtering, sorting, searching. Filtering, sorting, and searching. Clear? So if you want to sort the data in ascending and descending order, you can use a filter parameter. Filtering. So sorry, filtering means you can category mobile page rate or you can say product name equals to this some filter option you can apply. Also the paging nation, sorting, searching, paging and filtering. Suppose you want the second page data unretained record. So that's what you can specify using the query parameter. So we'll see practically, right? Whatever I'm showing here, practically I will implement these things. So if someone asks you what is the difference between route parameter and query parameter, then what should be your answer? Anyone having any right? What after discussing this much of thing, now I expect some little bit answer from you guys. What is the difference between route parameter and query parameter?
Route parameters is mandatory to pass from the client to get particular resources, and the query parameters are optional. Like as we discussed, it can be for filter or regulations.
So query parameter means identifying a specific resource. And the route parameters, sorry, route parameter means identifying a specific resource. Query parameter means optional values that can be used for filtering, sorting, searching, pagination, etc. Clear?
Padma, I couldn't able to see your screen. I tried with many way, like by leaving and rejoining many times, but still I'm not able to see your screen.
Then how I can help you
Can
in
you
this case?
reshare your screen? Might be it will be visible.
It is already sharing, right? Everyone able to
Okay.
watch. Anyone else not able to or unable to see my screen?
No.
Everyone, right? My screen is visible to all the people, guys, right?
Yeah, it's
Yes.
visible to me.
Yes.
Yes. Then right, that is something wrong with your machine, right? That what I assume. I'm not sure why it is not visible to you only, but please restart or something.
Okay.
Right, I don't know exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I will
So
try to join.
yeah, this screen is clear to everyone.
Yes.
This line, request line is
Yes.
clear.
Yes.
So you can see there are different headers are there, content type, accept and the authorization header. Can anybody tell me what is the difference? Authorization header we know. We need to pass a token for the identification purpose. What is the difference between these two famous header, content type and accept?
So
The content
accept means, yeah, go ahead.
the content type shows that in the body the data we are sending is in the JSON format.
Yes, so content type header is specifically tell the server the request data is going to be in this particular format. It can be application slash JSON, it can be application slash XML based on the type of data what you specify in the request body. And what is accept header?
I think it
Accept
is for
means,
the response. The
yeah, the
response
client
will
will
automatic.
accept. Yeah, the client
The
will accept
client,
in the form of the.
yes, not accept. In this case, accept header means what? It request the client, hey, Mr. Server, the client requesting the server, hey, Mr. Server, can you please send me the response in this particular format if possible? It is, see, whenever I'm saying request, it is request. I'm not giving any order, I'm requesting. So that is the reason why it is saying request. Request means it is requesting the server, right? Requesting the server, hey, Mr. Server, can you please send me the response in this particular format? So this content type is related to your request body, and this accept header is specifically requesting. I'm requesting in application slash XML. I'm requesting in application slash JSON, and how that implemented, right? Whether if the server accept both XML and JSON, he can return the response in any format what you specified. If the server accept return only the data in JSON format, then it will work. If you mention that if whatever the format the client is requested, if that format is not available, then always return the data in a JSON format. Then in that case, if the accepted or contain application slash XML, then also the server is going to return the data in JSON
JSON.
format. We requested in XML, but we got the response in JSON format. But if you strictly follow the content negotiation principle, and if you are telling the server, hey, Mr. Server, I mean, we are not telling, we are designing the server in such a way that whatever the format the client is requested, if that format is not available, then don't return the data in the default format, return some error message that format is not supported. So anyway, whatever your rate, what I can say, requirement, accordingly you can configure the server. So, and then finally the request body. So here, this is HTTP method. This is the rate scheme you can consider. This is the resource. This is your route parameter. This is going to be your query string, query parameters. This is the request header and the request body. All these components form together and to form the HTTP request. Clear? Clear, guys?
Yes.
Yes.
Now, so whatever we discussed, that what we have, I have also provided the documentations. Guys, give me 1 minute. Now we need to understand one more important concept, that is HTTP response. Similar to our HTTP request, which is composed of many components like request header, request body, query parameter, route parameters, HTTP method. The HTTP response is composed of three things. What are these things? HTTP status code, response header, and response body. Let us try to observe. See, in this case, in previous case, the request is being generated by the client. So when I'm saying HTTP request means that request is going to be generated by the client and that will be sent to the server. And when I'm saying response means who will generate the response and to whom it will send.
Server.
Server is going to generate, it will send that response to the client. So
Client.
why it is sending the response to the client? Because it will, after doing the operation, the client initially made a request. That request is being received by the server. The server processed that request. After processing the request, whether the request is completed successfully or not, whether the request completed with some error, whether you need more information to process the request. If the request is completed successfully, what data to be returned? So all these things we need to return. So who will return? Server will return. To whom? It will return to the client. And to do this thing, the HTTP response is going to contain three important piece of a component. So one is HTTP status code, response header, and the response body. Let us try to observe this thing. Okay. So you can say this is my server. And once after processing the request, the server is going to generate the response. And let's assume that response complete, that request process successfully, and we want to return a success message. And here you can see the HTTP response status line 200 OK. 200 OK means what? That the request completed successfully. the request completed successfully, right? Tells the client that request completed successfully. Like this 200, 200, there are other status codes also available. What are other status code available? Can anybody tell me? So 200 is okay. It should be right very clear. 201 is, guys tell me,
Created.
created. 204 means
No
तो
content.
इसका सत्याग्रह शब्द का अर्थ
which
है
unmute, which unmute, please mute yourself. Right? If it is related to this training program, please unmute. If you are talking somewhere else, right, then please mute. So 204 is no content. So this is nothing but your successful, right, what I can say, successful status code. These three are mostly used in our application. So when to use 200, when to use 201, when to use 204? Guys, tell me. This is specifically used whenever you are performing some get operations, or if you are performing some put operations, or if you are performing some patch operations. Right? So basically, right, this put and patch, these are not mandatory, optional. Right? Optional means what? Optional means what? Once you perform the operation, perform the operation means what? You update the data, whether you completely update or whether you partial update. After the update operation, you want to return the completed updated information. Once you update the data in the database, do you want to return those updated data? Yes, I want to return. Okay, then in that case, you need to go with the 200. Created means what? Created means post request. So you create a new resource. So once you create a new resource, what you need to return? You need to return that newly created resource. Along the same line, you also want to return a location header identifying how that resource is going to be accessed by the client. So 201 will tell the client. So 200 will tell the client that request completed successfully. In this case, it is also going to tell the client that the request completed successfully. As a result, we have created a new resource in the database. That response, that resource, I mean that newly created object, I'm also returning as part of the response body. Also, I'm returning a location header, which you can use, right, to access the newly created resource. Clear? Clear or not?
Clear.
Okay. No content means what? Now you delete one resource. Once you delete the resource, nothing is there to be written. 204 means what? The operation completed successfully, but there is nothing to be written by the server to the client. So OK means it is returning the data. Created means post, I mean the resource is created. Not only I'm returning the data, but also I'm returning a location header, which is going to tell how to access the newly created object. And no content means what? The operation completed successfully, but there is nothing to return. Clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Right. Now, so apart from this, I want to understand few more important status code. Okay, now tell me. So what is this 400? So guys, remember when I'm saying 2xs means what? It is successful responses. Successful responses. Now, when I'm saying 4xs, this is client error responses. So these are, instead of responses, better to tell status codes. Clear? So
Yes.
guys, tell me, if as a client application, if you are working with Angular, which is nothing but your client application, if you receive 400 status code from server, what exactly it means? Guys, tell me. I know everybody know 404 not found, but what about 400? So this is nothing but your
Bad request.
bad request. Bad request means what? The data, whatever you pass, is correct, incorrect. For example, you missing some mandatory parameter. You are passing the ID, which the server expect in integer, and you are passing a string value. The request body JSON format is invalid. So that is nothing but your bad request. So the data is not in a correct format. Clear?
Yes.
401 means, guys, tell me what it is.
Unauthorized.
Unauthorized.
Sorry? Unauthorized, right? Clear? So what is unauthorized?
It means you don't have access.
So unauthorized means invalid
Token.
client credential. So whatever the credential you are passing, whether it is your basic token, whether it is your JWT token, right? That may be invalid, that may be expired, or you might not be passing anything. Getting my point? So if you are not passing the authorization token itself, it is going to return 401. If you are passing the token, but that token is expired, that token is invalid, again, you are also going to get this unauthorized error. So missing token, invalid token, and expired token. So basically, so in this case, missing token. So you can consider the token is itself missing. Then you can consider, right? Okay, let me take this to this line. Missing token. That token, whatever you are passing, it is that is invalid token. The token, whatever you pass, that is going to be a expired token. So if this is the case, then in that case, the server is going to return 401. So once you got the 401 means what? Means the user is not authorized. So if the user is not authorized, then what you need to do? You have to redirect the user to the login page so that he can regenerate SSL. Clear?
Yes.
Okay. Then what about to 403? Guys, tell me. Forbidden. Forbidden means what? Forbidden means what? Guys, tell me. Token is valid. Token is valid. What? Permission is
Permission.
permission is not. So what exactly it means? It means, so if you are getting 403 error response from the server as a client, what you need to do, right? What you need to do, that is a separate story. What exactly it means? It means whatever the token I'm passing, whatever the client credential I'm passing, that is validated by a server, that information is correct. But to access that particular resource, whatever permission is required, that is missing. For example, one resource is going to be there for accessing that resource. You need to be the admin role. But currently you are having the sales role. That means using a sales role, you cannot access a resource for which admin role is required. So in that kind of scenarios, you need 403. If you are getting 403, you can either write what I can say, change the credential, or if you think that credential is fine for this particular role, that resource should accessible, communicate with the admin team and ask them why it is not working, why I'm logging as a as a particular user type, but I'm unable to access them. That they will fix the issue. Clear? 403 is gone. 404 means, guys, tell me. Not found. Not found means what? Not found, two types of not found. One, whatever the resource you are trying to access, that resource itself not available. For example, one endpoint I'm trying, that is an invalid endpoint. Another one, I'm trying to access a particular resource. For example, one product, one customer, one order information. That the data is not exist in the database. In that case also, it is going to return 404. Right? So 404 means that the data is not available. Clear?
Yes.
Another important status code that what we are going to use is 500. 500 means, can anybody tell me what is
Internal
this?
server.
Internal server error. So if there is some unhandled exception in your application, in that case, you need to return internal server error. But guys, remember, you can log the internal server details in the logger, right? That is for investigation. But you should not expose that sensitive internal exception details to the client. Instead, you can return a generic error message. So instead of returning the complete exception details, it is always advisable to return a generic error message to the client. But that complete error message you should log so that you can check what went wrong. Clear? So these are some of the important HTTP status code. 2xs, this is successful. 4xs, this is client error. IP access means what? Guys, tell me. IP access means
Server.
server error. Then you are facing some server error. As a client application, you do not need to do anything. Just wait or retrieve or something. So now you can see here, if I am returning 200, okay means what? The request completed successfully. This is what it will tell to the client. Clear? Yes or
Yes.
no?
Yes.
Response header, you can see like request header where we are sending the content type, accept, authorization. Similarly, the response header also going to contain some information, content type. So what type of right? So here the content type means what? Response body. In previous case, right, when I'm sending the request, content type represent the request body. While the server returning the response, that is content, that content type is going to represent the response body. Content like how much size of data. Location, what if we, this is a different, right, particular this location will come into the picture when you are using, when creating a new resource, and the status code is going to be 201. In that case, it is going to return something called location, which is going to tell the client that the newly created resource you can access using this URL. The response body, whatever the response after processing you want to return to the client, that what it will return in the response body. So status code tells the client what happened with your request, whether it is completed successfully or not. Response header means what? Provide some extra information about the response. Sometimes you can also make use of caching. And response body means the content. This is the response, that is what server is going to return to the client. Clear? These three components clear?
What is the meaning of content length?
So what is the size of a response that what you are returning?
Okay.
How much bytes? Clear?
Yes.
Okay. So we have discussed, right, 200, okay, 201 created, 204 not created, 400 bad request, 401 unauthorized. We have also discussed 403 right, forbidden. We have also discussed 404 not found, and 500 internal server error, right? So how Angular can use this status code? Let us try to understand. Angular application can use HTTP status codes to decide what action should be taken after receiving a response. If you receive 200, then process and display the return data. If you receive 201, show a message that resource was created successfully. If you receive 204, complete the operation without expecting a response from the data. 400 means display validation messages. 401 means ask the user to log in. 403 means show an access denied message. 404 means record not found. 500 means show a friendly server error message. Clear? So based on the response HTTP status code, you can decide what to do. Clear or not?
Yes.
Yeah.
Clear or
Yeah.
not? It should not be like this. You are getting 403 and you are showing that login page. If you are getting 400 means you should display the validation error because the issue is related to the data. If you are getting 400 and if you are showing access denied phase, this doesn't make any sense. So based on the status code, you have to display the appropriate message. Clear?
Sir, Panel, this is the generic methodology. I think it is not only for regarding for the Angular.
Generic method means what?
Generic methodology. Like if the status code is 200, then other than Angular, we also do the same.
What? I'm not getting. See, have you ever consumed any API?
Yes.
So how you are handling the response of the API?
If based on the status code, if we are getting, then we will do based on status code, we will do the operation.
That is what I'm showing here. What is wrong? So if
I
you
am
are
saying
consuming
that
the
I
services
guess
means
Pranay, I guess he's saying that it is a generic one, like whether it is a Angular application or a web API for .NET, everywhere
yeah,
the status codes are the same.
see,
yes,
see, see, this status code are related to HTTP, right? So these are HTTP status code. And this status code meaning is common to everyone. And once you got the status code, how you are handling, suppose in one of my project, right, we are not using this 201, 202, 204. We are using some different status code, right, 1001, 2001, 3001, 1000 for success, 2000 for failure, 3000 for some different custom status code we are using. That is absolutely fine. So it is basically between two parties. One is the client and one is the server. Server will provide the documentation. Server will provide this is my endpoint and these are the possible responses, right? So if the completed successfully, you will get this response. If it is red failed, you will get this exception. If it is bad request, you will get this error message. If it is not found, you will get this. If it is internal server error, you will get this message, right? And once you got the response code, it is already documented and accordingly you can write your logic. Clear? It is not mandatory. These are some of the status code, HTTP status code, but you can, if you want, you can also use your custom status code. Clear? Clear or not? I will show you this thing practically, right? Even if, right, if possible, then I can also show you how to create custom status code. That's what also I'm going to show you. After then only you will get more clarity. But for now, the way you are handling the status code, see, for example, right, forget about this number. And you know, if I'm getting this XYZ status code means request completed successfully. Then what I need to do? That what you will do. Similarly, the same in the case of web application. If I'm getting 200 or instead of 200, if I'm getting 2000, that means the request completed successfully. I have to write the logic. I need to fetch the status code. According to the status code, I have to write the logic. What is the status code and the why that status code? That is going to be documented between client and server. These are the status code provided by HTTP, fixed value. Apart from this, anything else you can write. Clear?
yes.
Okay. So response what we have discussed, example we have discussed. Okay. So what is the difference between a front-end application and a web? I mean, the responsibility. What are the responsibilities of a front-end application, and what are the responsibility of a back-end application? Right. So see, front-end application is the part of the application that as a normal user, we can see and interact directly. So if I'm using one software, right, web application means what? I'm the customer, I'm the user, I'm the client, and if I'm able to see and if I'm able to do or perform some operation, or you can see if I'm directly interacting with the application, means what? This is a front-end application. And front-end application main responsibility what? Displaying information. It can collect user input. It can show forms and buttons. It can handle user interactions. It can perform some basic client-side validations. It can send a request to the backend API. It can receive the API response from the server. it can display success messages, it can display validation or error messages. And Angular, right, is basically one software, or you can say one, right, a framework which is specifically used for developing front-end application. The front-end application mainly focus on user interaction and presentation. How you are going to present the data to the user and how user is going to interact, at what going to be defined by the front-end applications. Clear? Clear or not?
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to discuss the backend responsibility. So the backend means what? It is the part of the application that handle application logic. So when I'm saying application means combination of a front end and a backend. Front end application responsibilities are different. Backend application responsibilities are different. But combining both front end and a backend, our whole application is going to be covered. The front end is specifically for user and interaction and presentation. Backend is the part where it basically handle the application business logic, application validation logic, application data access logic. So it mainly responsible for right receiving the request from the client, or you can say from the front end application. After receiving the request, if you enable authentication and authorization, that what it is going to do, validating. It is also going to validate the incoming data in case of a post put patch request. While processing the request, any business rule, if it wants to apply, it can apply. After then, if it wants to store the data or retrieve, update, delete, whatever operation, if you want, it wants to perform with the database, it can do by communicating with the database, right? And then according to your method type, if it is a post request, it is going to create a new record. If it is a get request, it is going to retrieve the existing record. If it is a post or a patch request, it is going to update the record. If it is a delete request, it is going to delete the record. After performing the operations, it will prepare the response, and that response will be returned to the front-end application. And in our case, ASP.NET Core Web API is going to be our backend. Clear? Clear or not?
Yes.
Yes.
Now let us try to understand this responsibility right with the layman analogy, right? Restaurant analogy. Suppose the customer is going to be the user. So customer is the user. The waiter is going to be the front end. The kitchen is going to be the back end. So here you understand three terminology: customer, waiter, and here is the kitchen. So customer is nothing but your user, client, whatever front end you can see, and this is the backend. So as a user, I'm going to interact with the front end, and front end is going to interact with the backend. Let's see how. The order sent to the kitchen, right? Whatever the order we are sending to the kitchen is like an HTTP request. So order sending to the kitchen. So kitchen means here backend. If I'm sending one requested to the whatever message I'm sending to the backend means it is a HTTP request. The order sent to the kitchen is like the HTTP request. The prepared food written by the kitchen is like the HTTP response. Clear?
Yes.
Right. Now, let us try to understand the role and responsibility. Waiter. So in this case, waiter is nothing but your front end. So waiter shows the menu to the customer. It takes the order from the customer, send that order to the kitchen, receives the prepared food from the kitchen, and serve it to the right customer. Receives the prepared food from the kitchen. Clear? Clear? This part is clear?
Yes.
Yes.
Then the kitchen that is going to a back end, what
Yes.
exactly it is going to do? It receives the order from user or customer, whatever you say. It receives the order from the customer, check what needs to be prepared, follows the required process, prepare the food, and receives the order from the waiter, not from the customer. So it receives the order from the waiter, check what needs to be prepared, follow the required process, prepare the food, send the result back to the waiter. Clear? Clear or not? The waiter doesn't prepare the food. Means what? The front-end application is never going to do the business operations. And the customer doesn't normally communicate directly with the kitchen. And as a customer, right, or client, we are not going to directly communicate with the. So we need to pass our data to the front-end application. Front-end application internally communicate with the back-end applications. Clear? Clear or not? Is that clear,
Yeah.
guys? Okay. So tomorrow we are going to develop a complete real-time application, right, web API application, and then we'll discuss how we can use that web API in our Angular application to perform the fraud operations. So we have already discussed these steps, how to display the product. I mean, complete example, if you are viewing product. So user will click on the button in the Angular user interface, view product button. Front-end application send a request to the server. The server is going to process the request. After processing the request, it will return a response to the front-end application. And the front-end application going to process the response and display it in the UI. And same in the case of a create. So what I'm going to do, tomorrow I'm going to develop this application according to the industry standard and best practices. I'm going to create here. Here I'll show you how to use custom exception handler, custom exception services, repositories, mappings, handler exception, DTO, data controller, and common. And I will develop this complete application in the live session. And then we will see how we are going to consume the services from a Angular application using HTTP service. Clear?
Yes.
Right. So this is going to be a
Yes.
complete industry standard project that what we are going to develop tomorrow. And also while developing, I'm also going to discuss the course policy, how to create a global exception handler, right? How this handler is going to handle the unhandled exception, product mapping, service, repository, TTO, models, data. Everything is going to be separate with its one layer so that managing, testing, right, enhancement becomes very easy later. Anyone having any question, guys? They can ask me. And guys, remember whatever we discussed today, please try to read this document once more. Understand the concept because if you are going with the full stack developer, definitely you will get this kind of questions in the interview. Anyone having any more question?
No.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Thank
you.
you, sir.